Hi, today I'm here with Gabrielle Gavalis. Gabrielle is the director of marketing at Evocalize. He's a really super cool marketer with lots of experience. And so, Gabrielle, thank you so much for being with me today.
Carolina, it was great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so today we are going to talk about demand gen forecasting, which is really important, but yet can be challenging when you are working at a small company and you don't have a lot of benchmark data to work with. So, how would you recommend marketers approach demand gen forecasting, especially if they don't have a lot of benchmarking data?
Well, I think demand gen forecasting, before diving in, is like the thing that nobody wants to talk about, but it's often like the funnest thing that you can do, because you're not spending real money in channels yet. You're still like in the planning phase. And
Mm-hmm.
from my experience, I've seen that my executive teams or my CEOs, they always want to know how we're measuring up against our goals, and what kind of goals are we going to achieve. And it's very
Mm-hmm.
hard to set those goals if you don't have benchmark data. And so in the past, what we've done is worked with our finance team to first understand how many deals that we close. So like Evocalize, for example, is an enterprise B2B company. And so we have an identified number of how many deals we're going to close on a quarterly basis. And we
Mm-hmm.
also have an understanding of what our sales cycle is. It's about a 6-month sales cycle by the time a lead comes in, and from to the time that something closes. And so once you kind of have those two data points together, what I do is reverse engineer our funnel. So if we take a look at lead to MQL to SQL to opportunities, stage by stage conversion rates, once you can create a hypothesis to say something like 5% of all my leads are going to turn into MQLs, and then all of my MQLs, 10% of those will turn into SQLs, and have a salesperson on the phone. And then you can
Mm-hmm.
forecast or just estimate what these percentage points are, and you can start to reverse engineer your sales funnel based on those metrics. So if I know I need 5 new deals Q1 2021 based on a 6-month sales cycle, that means June 2020, I will need X amount of leads, X amount of MQLs, and X amount of SQLs in order to generate demand.
Right.
And everything's a hypothesis, right? So you're just testing from that point on to execute your strategies to see what moves the needle. And you can use those benchmarks to report back to your executive teams. I keep going like this because I'm petting my dog. The dog just came up
Oh,
right when we started the interview. So the fun lives of COVID, I guess.
right. What type of dog do you have?
Well, we're Rover sitters. It's a golden retriever, and so we're
Oh,
dog sitting for about a week.
oh, nice, adorable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So to go back to forecasting, which is much less cute than dogs. Uh,
I beg to differ. I think forecasting is great, but okay.
well, forecasting is great. It's really useful because you do want to have this benchmark and you do want to have this hypothesis to understand how you're doing. I think an interesting part of the process when you're forecasting, especially when you're early stage and your forecast might be wrong, because at any point in of your funnel, one of your hypotheses might be wrong, and so that affects your entire funnel. I think an important part of the process is probably to reassess this hypothesis and kind of like really include everybody that is a stakeholder in re-evaluating your forecast, right? And making sure that we agree on new hypothesis together.
Yeah, when people can come around shared goals, I believe that's what like leadership is, right? And how everybody becomes on the same page. But you're right. There's a lot of hypotheses that aren't right. I feel like in the very
Mm-hmm.
beginning we're overly ambitious, and we feel like we're going to send out 200 emails, and 20 of them are going to respond back and give meetings, and then you try it, and only one person, if any, responded to an email, right? So it's always
Yeah.
understanding the strategies that you're executing, and also the budgets that you have to make sure that your goals are realistic about what your resources are in front of you.
Right. Yeah, that's extremely important. I remember the first time I did forecasting, which was my very first job,
Mm.
and I did forecasting, didn't go well because I didn't have this, I think I didn't have, this perspective and really understanding how was my budget affecting my forecasting
Mhm.
and how to readjust expectations and making sure that everybody was on the same page. So yeah, I think it's really good advice here to make sure you set realistic expectations, right? Goals you can achieve.
If you don't have a plan, it's hard to get anywhere.
Exactly, exactly. All right. Well, Gabriel, thank you so much for spending time here today and sharing your approach to forecasting. That was great to have you here.
Thank you.